Harris's CNN interview, America will become a wasteland, says Trump. Trump and Vance target Battleground, Pennsylvania today. Trump to also address a conservative parental rights group in D.C. Our top story, it took 5 long weeks and finally we got here. Kamala Harris gave her first sit-down interview since Joe Biden stepped aside in the presidential race. Seated right next to Harris was Tim Walz, her running mate. Harris has offered her most detailed explanation to date on why she's changed some of her positions that happened in that interview. Here's more on Harris's 27-minute interview that has Americans and the world watching. Fuck.
After facing criticism for barely engaging with reporters since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee, Kamala Harris finally sat down for a half-hour interview with CNN. Harris defended her shift in position on key issues such as immigration and fracking, emphasizing that her core values remained intact despite the shift. She said that her time as vice president provided new perspective on some of the country's most pressing issues. Harris once held more progressive immigration views during her campaign for president in 2020. She had previously advocated the closure of immigration detention centers and the decriminalization of illegal crossings. In the interview, she vowed a tougher approach to migration along the US southern border. Explaining her changed immigration view, she said that her travels across the country as vice president made her focus on building consensus.
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed.
Harris found herself clarifying on another key issue, fracking, the process of using liquid to free natural gas from rock formations. The method is controversial, owing to claims of its residual health impact on communities. Harris had said in 2019 that there is no question she is in favor of banning fracking. In the interview, she said she had already changed her position on fracking in 2020. Trump had recently accused Harris of trying to hide her past opposition to fracking.
I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know I promise to be a president for all Americans.
Expanding on her comments made during the successful Democratic National Convention, she said that she would appoint a Republican to her cabinet. Kamala Harris has, for now, addressed the criticism she received about lack of press interactions. What remains to be seen is the kind of effect it has on opinion polls. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV.
For more, we're joined by former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce Raymond Vickery. He's going to give us some of his insights on the interview that played out. Raymond, thanks for joining us this morning here. Let me start by asking you, was the interview boring? That was Trump's reaction on social media. He criticized Harris for rambling incoherently and said that he doesn't see her negotiating with the likes of President Xi of China. What would you say?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I thought that the most remarkable part of the interview was that it was so civilized, that it was civil. You didn't have any of the Trump bombast of trying to denigrate a person's racial background, saying they were dumb. You didn't have any of the J.D. Vance telling people to go to hell, that kind of thing. It was bipartisan, going to appoint a member of the cabinet from the other party, trying to build consensus. So I thought that that was all to the good. Now, Trump is a master of reality TV. That's where he comes from. Is it good television? Can we stir up emotions? Can we do divisiveness? That is his standard. That's the standard, though, it seems to me, that Kamala Harris and Waltz want to get away from. It's what America wants to get away from, in my opinion. So I thought that, yes, it was remarkable in how civilized it was, but that's a really good thing. And we don't need to always have the kind of bombast that a performer like Trump gives us.
Okay, so you're giving it the thumbs up. Now, Raymond, the other criticism has been that Harris should have done this interview alone, not have her running mate with her. She had Tim Walz, as you saw there. Some say for moral support and, in case she struggled or needed to make some sort of other valid point. Do you think that argument holds good? She should have just had a one-on-one instead?
Well, first of all, it's nothing unusual for a candidate who has been nominated to do their first interviews along with the vice president on the ticket. That's what Trump did with Pence. Of course, Pence has now said that he won't endorse Trump, and they've fallen out, but they did their first interview after he was nominated. So that's nothing unusual. The kind of criticism you're talking about plays into the racial stereotyping that Trump is trying to do. It's a dog whistle saying that people who are of African American descent are not smart enough to be able to do things on their own. That's not a good way to approach it. So I thought there was nothing unusual about it. And as you know, Waltz was silent for most of the time and was there to show unity within the Democratic ticket. So I think that's trying to make something out of nothing to criticize the fact that she didn't do it on her own.
Now, Raymond, you alluded to this in the interview. Harris suggested that she would appoint a Republican to her cabinet. In the past, we've seen this happen where the president appoints at least one cabinet post to the other party. But this didn't happen with Trump. It hasn't happened with Biden. What's the message really that Harris is trying to get across, do you think?
Well, the message is that we're one people, that you shouldn't demonize someone because they're a Democrat or a Republican, that we're Americans. And it is a good tradition, and there have been many instances in which having someone of a different political persuasion in the cabinet is a good thing. I'm sorry we've gotten away from that with Trump and with Biden. But it's a very clear signal that we're intending, that the Democrats are intending to reach across the aisle and work to bring about a unified America, which will be in the interest of India, the United States, and all democracies.
Right, thanks very much indeed. That was Raymond Vickery, U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce there, joining us live here this morning on NDTV. Now, former U.S. President Donald Trump's back on the campaign trail with a rally in Pennsylvania later today. Trump has been trying to appeal to wider audiences. He has called for universal coverage of IVF treatment with no indications, though, on how his plan would work. At a town hall event in Wisconsin, he said, "We want to produce babies in the country right," just like he's doing with Wisconsin, which is a swing state. Trump's focus has been on others too, especially states he won in 2016, but really couldn't manage and lost with a very, very narrow margin in 2020.
While Kamala Harris visited the key swing state of Georgia this week, former US President Donald Trump wasn't too far behind as he campaigned on Thursday in the key swing states of Michigan and Wisconsin. The 78-year-old used the opportunity to slam Harris, especially on key issues such as healthcare and immigration.
Kamala is promising communist-style price controls, free taxpayer-funded health care, not that you're going to want, nobody in this room is going to want it, for all illegal aliens, mass amnesty and citizenship for the millions and millions of migrants she lets in. She wants to give citizenship to people that have come here illegally. They didn't come through the system. You know, we want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally, right? They have to come in legally.
The Trump campaign has an intense focus on recapturing states he won in 2016, but lost narrowly in 2020. The 45th US president took to his social media platform, Truth Social, to roast Harris after her major interview on Thursday. It took Harris close to 40 days to sit down for a major interview after President Biden bowed out of the 2024 race on July 21st. On the other hand, Trump and his campaign quickly seized the opportunity and increased Trump's availability to the press. The latest polls paint a positive picture for Harris. The Reuters Ipsos poll says that Harris has widened her lead over Trump. Meanwhile, a separate Bloomberg Morning Consult poll says that she was either leading or tied with Trump in the swing states. With more than 2 months left in the final showdown, both candidates still have a chance, but Harris seems to be gaining momentum as opposed to Biden, who was struggling. According to a report, Matt Wolking, a former Trump campaign strategist, has said that running against Harris is more challenging for Trump, but it's certainly not insurmountable. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
All right, joining us now for more on the stories, we're joined by Sampath Shivang. He's a Republican delegate. Thanks very much, Sampath, for joining us here this morning. Sampath, how big a concern are the polls for Trump's campaign? Yes, it's neck and neck. Yes, we still have 2 months before the elections, you might say, and lots really can change. They may not say it, but is this really making the Republican Party uneasy? Are they just uneasy, or are they in panic mode yet?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the invite, and I enjoy being on NDTV. Yes, I was a delegate at the RNC convention in Wisconsin, where I was told that President Trump is behind the polls. But, initially, Harris is a new candidate. Trump campaign was preparing to face President Biden, and suddenly there's a change of face and personality. So I think they have to regroup and reconvene and find a new strategy how to combat Ms. Harris' popularity. And I've heard that she's had 4 to 5% in some states. But I think it is the initial response. And, maybe 30 to 45 days, things will change. The Trump campaign strategy will change. And I think people will know I'm an Indian American.
40 days ago when Biden stepped aside, we heard... 40 days ago when Biden stepped aside, we heard how Trump's campaign was looking at a strategy shift. And like you said, they should pivot now. But what should they do?
Of course, they have to regroup. And Mrs. Harris is, depending upon more Black American, African American votes. Of course, even President Biden would have contested. He would have gotten almost equal number of votes. That's the reason she does not even want to answer whether she has Indian descent or any background. She refused to ask that. She refused to answer that question. And I am sure you have seen in the interview, somebody asked her, what is your descent? Because Trump made a big issue out of it. And he went to national television's conference other day. He asked whether she is Indian American or she is a Black American. She refused to answer that question. So still she wants to work on that issue. I don't think she is much worried about Indian American votes because there are hardly less than 2%. And if she says she's not Black American, she's going to lose 20 to 25% of votes. I think so. Her strategy may be right for her own
But
good
don't you think?
efforts.
But don't you think? But don't you think Sampath pulling out this whole card? She is black. She is a black of South Asian heritage as well. So this kind of backfired really in the media, where Trump is really polarizing people. Where people are probably saying that why is this really an issue? She is black, so why are we even talking about this right now?
She's not straightforward on that. She's using according to convenience to her campaign. And remember on, I think, January 26th, she had a party in her home at vice president's residence to celebrate India's Republican Day. She invited almost 100 Indian Americans to her home. What does it say? Why not President Biden did not invite, only she invited, because she wants to identify and she wants to use her Indian heritage. That is my feeling. I'm the first writer to bring this up 6 years ago, before she even was vice president. When she was a candidate for presidential candidate, I said, we're not against her, but if she says she's not Indian American, why do you want to enforce that issue on her? Leave her alone, and we can decide whom we
Okay,
should
Sampath,
select, whom we should vote for.
Let's come back to the whole topic here of Trump, whether he needs to pivot his strategy. Let's take a look at how the campaign handled a recent controversy. We just want to update our viewers here. The U.S. Army, it issued a rare statement about what happened when Trump went to Arlington Cemetery a few days ago, which is not very far from D.C. The statement says, quote, participants in the ceremony were made aware of federal laws, Army regulations, and DoD policies which prohibit political activities on cemetery grounds. An ANC employee, that's the Army employee, who attempted to ensure adherence to these rules were abruptly pushed aside. So there was some kind of altercation there. Reports say Trump staffers were warned not to take photos in something called Section 60, the burial site for military personnel killed while fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq. But yet, Trump was seen there posing for pictures in Section 60, posting that picture with a family of a fallen soldier and giving a thumbs up to the campaign photographer. So this is really blown up a bit here. So how do you think the Trump campaign handled this?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think probably President Trump. Nobody exempt in America, whether he's a president or a ordinary civil servant or a citizen. All the laws are equal. There's no law about anybody. So Trump, it's possible that he was not aware of the rules, regulations, how to visit cemetery, and how to respond to the questions. I'm sure he was not briefed enough by his assistants or his personnel. I think it was a misstep on behalf of presidential group. I won't say president himself, ex-president himself, but it is possible. I agree with you that they should be more careful next time they do visit National Cemetery, which is very, very important role they play in American civil life or American military life.
Certainly. Sampath, we have Xenia Bell. She is a professor and political analyst with Cleveland State University. She's joining us now. Xenia, if you could just give us what you think about this latest controversy about the Arlington Cemetery and Trump's visit there, an altercation between an Army staffer and an Army personnel and Trump's staff. Not going down too well in the media. How do you think the campaign handled that? The Trump campaign?
So interestingly, my apologies. Was that question for me? Allister,
Yes,
was that question for me? All right. So, I have been reading extensively about this, and NPR, the National Public Radio, covered this extensively. And that's why this story actually, well, they claim that's why this story got so much coverage. So, one thing I'd like to point out is that per the guidelines of the symmetry, any political activity and using those grounds for political activity is not permitted, right? Trump went there to honor the servicemen, specifically the servicemen who passed away, who lost their lives when the United States exited Afghanistan. And those are those 13 servicemen, which has been one of the most horrific, I think, incidents against the US military in recent past under the Biden administration. So it was a big blow to the Biden administration. And of course, Trump wanted to play that up. And remember that Virginia is, of course, it's primarily a Democratic state. So there are all these factors, and the Trump campaign issued an official statement stating that, of course, they followed the guidelines. Trump was only there to honor those 13 servicemen who lost their lives. And, at the end of the day, Harris-Biden administration should be questioned regarding the safety of servicemen, given that, this was one of the most horrific attacks on servicemen in U.S. servicemen in recent history. So one has to consider some of these and how this is played out in the media, and how, sort of the photo op itself was used by Trump, and it was used in some of his political ads, and which is again a violation of the guidelines and the rules there. And one of the family men, I was listening to a family member who spoke about how they were disappointed in the Trump campaign, specifically because one of the graves there is of a serviceman who committed suicide, right? And the family member spoke out and said as to why rules and guidelines wasn't followed. And this shows, right, Trump's and his campaign's kind of rigorous attack on the Biden administration, and how all these incidents and these photos are being used to target the incumbent.
Zina Bell there, and of course Sampath Shivang earlier joining us for their insights on the Trump presidential campaign. Sorry, need to leave it there for now, but we'll chat with you at some other point in time for sure. Moving on now, former President Donald Trump has asked the US federal court to intervene in his New York hush money criminal case. It seems Trump is seeking a path to overturn his felony conviction and delay sentencing indefinitely. Trump's lawyers also say the sentencing proceedings, which are currently scheduled for 7 weeks before Election Day, could constitute election interference. Here's more.
My honor to introduce the 45th and soon to be 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
As the 2024 U.S. presidential election campaign trail heats up, Trump's lawyers have sought the transfer of his hush money case into federal court. The plea comes on the heels of his sentencing by the Manhattan court, which convicted him of falsifying records to cover up a sex scandal 3 months prior. Trump is due to receive punishment for his conviction on the 18th of September, but this latest attempt at staving off the same could further complicate his legal team's earlier efforts at postponing sentencing. His counsel had asked Manhattan Court's Justice Merchant to delay sentencing till after Election Day on the basis of the Supreme Court's recent presidential immunity ruling. In their federal plaint, they have argued that the case itself runs afoul of the same judgment and should thus be transferred to a federal court. Trump's team, though, has its work cut out, as it has tried to use similar arguments in the past to no avail. As late as last year, Trump tried and failed to get his case transferred to federal court, while also failing to get Justice Merchant removed from the hush money trial, all based on the same presidential immunity for official acts arguments. With just over 2 months to go to the November elections, it remains to be seen what impacts these efforts will have on Trump's electoral performance in the fall. Bureau Report for NDTV World.
That's all we have time for here on US Election Watch. I'm Allister D'Souza in Washington, D.C.
जहां बवंडर आता है वहां कमांडर आता है. That sums up Commander Karan Saxena for me, which is
Someone's happy. Get that lucky cow feeling with luckycowbingo.com/bingo. The site that's bursting with beautiful bingo games. 75 ball bingo. Even 90 ball bingo. Fill your bingo boots today. Get that lucky cow feeling at luckycowbingo.com/bingo or download the Lucky Cow Android app from the Play Store.
It was so painful to watch.
I sat there and I held her hand. She just went.
You know, the toughest part of the whole grief, I'll never forget, is when Nan turned to me one time. And she goes, "John, I don't know what's happening to me."
I stopped being a daughter, I think, for a long time. And those 3 weeks that he came in were the 3 weeks that I could be his little girl again. Nothing I can do will repay Marie Curie for doing that for me. The amazing gift that they gave me was I was there at his last breath. He was there for my first.
Man, in the calls, they just listened. She just said, "John, just speak." And that was the start.
Although people don't like to talk about it, but now we know we're getting older, it has to be done.
It's tough because we feel so young. Yeah, you gotta have that conversation about wills, trust, and...
You start to think about, well, what would I do? Where would I want to leave things? I will give everything back that I can to the hospice that gave me so much, not only in my name, but in Dad's name.
Who do I have my assets to?
I didn't realise you had a choice. I can feel Dad going, that's my girl, that's my girl.
Give better end-of-life care to all. Get your free will guide today.
When you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock, or they just keep on growing. Get the flexibility you need with VeryPay. Pay now, pay later, or pay over 3 months and pay no interest. We'll even send you helpful payment reminders. Shop the online store for fashion, home and more. VeryPay. Ways to pay that work your way.
With retirement round the corner, I want to spend more time with my family and less time worrying about the numbers. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money could help with funeral costs or even as a gift for the grandkids. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a free £125 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
You got them all right. That's amazing.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 977 5808 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
We all love making things last, don't we? Big love to Gordon, whose phone has a lifetime warranty, making it last longer, just like his romance. Oh, love it. And Auntie Marie, whose phone lasts longer with its battery refresh. Hang on in there, Auntie Marie. Nearly done. Phones last longer with our lifetime warranty and battery refresh on all phones at no extra cost.
We all know animals have feelings. They depend on kindness, just like you and me. So imagine how they feel when they're beaten, starved, and unloved. Every minute, the RSPCA is called on to save animals in physical agony and mental torment. It's unbearable to see the pain in their eyes. We refuse to give up on them, but to rescue them from a life of fear, we urgently need animal lovers like you to donate today. Please call 0800 121 4259 or text KIND to 84902 to give £2 a month to the RSPCA. Your gift will help fund more life-saving rescues, more emergency treatment, and more gentle rehabilitation. Every month, you'll be helping to keep animals free from pain and sadness, so they can find the comfort and joy they deserve. Right now, across the country, thousands are suffering deliberate harm. But together, we can show animals what kindness feels like. Together, we can rescue them. So please, call 0800 121 4259, text KIND to 84902, or visit our website to start your monthly donation today. Thank you.
Greetings, wonderful people of Britain. I'm Tom Allen, and it's my pleasure to declare delivering good news is a daily routine with People's Postcode Lottery. Curious on how it works? Well, prick up your ears and let me explain. Enter with your postcode to play. Own it, rent it, doesn't matter. Winning postcodes are announced every day with a whole host of delightful prizes that could be won by you and your neighbours.
And in our September draws, you could win a share of £18.5 million.
It costs £12 for a monthly subscription that guarantees you entry into all draws every month, aside from winning. Take pride in knowing you're playing your part for charities, with players having raised over £1.3 billion so far. Want to find out more or join? Then why not hop onto our website or dial our digits for a chit-chat? For a chance to win, sign up before midnight tomorrow. You never know, good news could be delivered to your postcode.
At Glasses Direct, get 2 pairs of glasses for £15 with lenses. Go direct to glassesdirect.co.uk.
Do you need to borrow money for home improvements, a car? Then you've come to the right place. Everyday Loans. Just tell us how much you want to borrow, up to £15,000. At Everyday Loans, we offer a service that's friendly and reliable. Apply online or on your phone. Representative APR 99.9%. Apply now at everydayloans.co.uk.
The special investigation team that the Kerala government has set up, I am not very sure whether they are sensitized to understand, our workspace, which is very different from all other workspace, and to take these cases forward.